False hope, mankind's deadliest drug. One little taste and you're hooked. It reels you in with the allure of a brief but potent high, the trip to end all other trips. It then sends you crashing back down with such force and for such an excruciatingly prolonged period of time that it makes the Challenger disaster look like a minor fender bender in comparison. You want more. You need more. It doesn't matter if your resources are dwindling, you need to feel that rush again. This line of thinking isn't just how Vegas casinos and drug dealers stay in business, it's how bad businesses stay bad. Case in point, Paramount Pictures. That was one heck of a 2022 they had, wasn't it? Just look at that theatrical lineup. Sure, they weren't all good movies, but I seriously can't undersell just how important this was for them at the time. These films didn't just bring in money, they brought relevance back to the studio. Paramount stood toe-to-toe with Disney and Universal that year. They brought legitimacy to the idea that not every big Hollywood blockbuster needed to be a superhero movie in order to be successful. Their future looked bright again at long last. Too bad it was only the flashing light that comes with false hope addiction. Like I said, one taste is all it takes. It seems obvious now in hindsight, but perhaps Paramount was unwise to put all their eggs into the IP basket. Don't get me wrong, those kinds of movies are great for short-term success as their run in 2022 proved, but a studio simply cannot be eternally sustained by sequels and IPs alone. Disney getting away with it for as long as they have does not mean it should become the new universal standard for filmmaking, because one day when that bubble bursts, it could potentially take the entire industry down with it. It's happening too. Just ask Disney how lucrative Marvel and Star Wars are now compared to a decade ago. Since I'm off on a bit of a Disney tangent, here's a fun fact. Paramount also owns a metric ton of intellectual properties. Remember all the big name franchises they kept themselves afloat with from the late 2000s to the mid 2010s? Transformers, Star Trek, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the list goes on. Not great movies, but that didn't stop the studio from making bank off of them. Not to mention they were responsible for the early rise of Marvel Studios before handing distribution rights over to Disney on a silver platter. Yeah, this leads us into Paramount's false hope-induced fatal flaw as a company. Fumbles. Lots and lots of fumbles.
And it was the backside of Brandon Moore that knocked the ball out.
Why would we try to retain our distribution rights to Marvel when we have robot cars and giant turtles to dominate the box office? Why would we be at all interested in keeping DreamWorks when we have Jack Reacher? Nothing's gonna be able to compete with Jack Reacher in 10 years. Jack Reacher is gonna be the next Star Wars.
How's it going? I don't like being followed.
This is bigger than I imagined.
This is what I mean when I say that IPs on their own can't keep a studio in business forever. The wells ran dry and now Paramount is down the river without a paddle, searching desperately for some other franchise to milk. This has resulted in quite the streak of commercial failures. Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Transformers 1, just to name a few. Even in 2022, they lost quite a bit of money on Babylon. And sure, these movies face stiff competition at the box office upon release, but at what point do you evolve your craft to become the competition? How long do you accept your fate as a non-factor in Hollywood before you decide to do something about it? This is a lot of Paramount clinging to their old ways, refusing to change, and it's not just catching up to them, they're as good as already caught. I'm not kidding when I refer to them as a non-factor either. Outside of 2022, they've consistently had the lowest market share of Hollywood's Big Five studios since 2012. This is far from a new trend, and there was a point not too long ago when it was even worse. Paramount couldn't even compete with 20th Century Fox in the years leading up to their acquisition by Disney. It was that bad. And yet, what measures have been taken since then to try and douse these flames? None. Next to none. The studio has continued to hemorrhage money at a catastrophic rate with seemingly no end in sight. It shows in their underwhelming box office returns on big budget films, and it shows in their less than stellar distribution deals as of late. You'd think they would take the Blumhouse approach and make more of a conscious effort to produce lower budget films and prioritize turning a profit, but that would make too much sense. For all of Hollywood, apparently, not just Paramount. But surely in the age of streaming, they can make back at least some of their losses. No, just no. Where do I even begin here? They waited entirely too long to start taking streaming seriously, and by the time they finally did, it was all but too late to make much of an impact whatsoever. When your market share is less than Apple TV Plus, it's pretty difficult to call that anything but a failure. That's not even to mention the platform itself. Paramount Plus has been one of the worst streaming services going back to the days of CBS All Access. The interface sucks and the library is very limited compared to other platforms, especially with them locking their Showtime content behind a paywall. Each of these issues is a symptom of Paramount royally fumbling the streaming wars. By 2021, most other services had been around long enough to develop and improve significantly, while Paramount Plus was still in its infancy. It made the common early stage issues stand out that much more. The only thing keeping Paramount Plus anywhere near relevant is their numerous Yellowstone spin-offs, but even then there's quite a few people who don't know why the original show itself isn't also streaming on there. It's such a common question that they felt it was necessary to address it on their FAQ page. The answer is simple, really. They fumbled. In an age where streaming is killing cable, they chose to retain network airing rights while selling off streaming rights to Peacock the year before Paramount Plus launched. Yes, they fumbled the streaming of their most successful television series in an age before they ever even entered the streaming game. Once again, Paramount waits too long to adapt, and once again, they pay the price for it. To fully grasp the scope of this colossal train wreck, however, we need to look at the people at the top. No, not any of the studio executives. I mean the ones above them at the very top of the pyramid, the shareholders. You see, Paramount Pictures is run by Paramount Global, a mass media conglomerate and bastard child of CBS and Viacom. Ah, CBS and Viacom, true models of corporate instability, parting ways in 2006 to focus on themselves, only to remerge in 2019 for the sake of competition in the industry. It's like a divorced couple getting remarried, not because they fell back in love, but just so they can have more money while trying to fit in with the other married couples in the neighborhood. Well, it was actually a bit more coerced than that. To try and make a long story short, longtime majority shareholder and chairman of both CBS and Viacom, Sumner Redstone, stepped down from his position, and despite apparently not wanting his daughter Sherry to succeed him, she went ahead and did it anyway. She pushed hard for the remerger, and once it happened, she became chairwoman of the newly born Paramount Global. That's not even including the, let's say, family drama she had to deal with during this time as well. You could make an entire television series about the whole ordeal, and HBO kinda did. I wish I could say Sherry Redstone has done a good job at the helm, but if you've watched the rest of the video up to this point, you already know that's not the case. Paramount has been deep in a mire of their own making since the end of her father's reign, and she's done little, if anything at all, to alleviate the situation. It's almost as if she got so caught up in remerging CBS and Viacom that she either neglected or outright forgot about the film studio crumbling to the ground right in front of her. The Paramount Global experiment hasn't exactly been a glowing success either, and at long last in December of 2023, the writing was on the wall. Paramount would need a merger if they were gonna survive. To the surprise of no one, Sherry nearly fumbled that too. It was quite the needless soap opera. She was in talks with David Ellison of Skydance Media about a possible deal, only to abruptly shut down negotiations due to sentimental value. She was ready to walk away from a multi-billion-dollar deal to save her father's company because she loved her father's company too much to let it go. It's like refusing to get on a lifeboat because you're too emotionally attached to the cruise ship even as it's sinking beneath you. Or maybe it's more similar to this Titanic moment. Thankfully, negotiations were reopened and a deal was made, but the fact that Sherry was seemingly content with clutching onto her father's company while the flames consumed it is emblematic of everything wrong with Paramount. They are a studio stuck in the past, refusing to change with the times until forced to do so, and let's not forget perennially fumbling at every turn. They had one good year out of the last 13 and they huffed false hope like there was no tomorrow, when in reality, it was like putting duct tape on a house fire and calling it extinguished. And so kids, may this modern tragedy be a warning to you all. Stay far, far away from false hope. The promise of a brief high may seem tempting, but it's all just to tear you down in the long run. Paramount believed 2022 was a sign of things to come, but it only wound up being a consolation prize that made the inevitable all that much more painful when it finally arrived. Perhaps out of these ashes, the studio will be able to embrace true hope again. Or maybe David Ellison will become David Zaslav 2.0 and Hollywood Hollywood's circular pilgrimage through their own personal hellscape will continue with minimal interruption. God help us all.